Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
A woman who misrepresented herself as a man on her job application has been fired after one day of work, and you're not going to believe the job she was hired to do. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action and Associate Dean with Liberty University School of Law, in today for Matt Staver. And joining me again in studio is Shawn Akers, Dean of Liberty University's Helms School of Government and Policy Analyst with Liberty Counsel. Well, Shawn, they often say that truth is stranger than fiction. You know, we've often talked about the insanity associated with the so-called LGBT movement, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender movement. Now, the T in the transgender is there to represent individuals who suffer from what the APA calls gender identity disorder. This is a mental disorder wherein a man falsely believes that he is really a woman, or a woman falsely believes that she is a man, that somehow they're trapped in the wrong body. This, of course, what we see happen with this, unfortunately, sometimes with these tragic situations, is that our culture and the medical community will even embrace this, and rather than correcting their gender identity to come into line with their actual gender reality, they will do, of course, what is impossible, and through a series of cosmetic surgeries and bodily mutilations, will try to make that person cosmetically appear to be the opposite sex. Well, we have a situation in New Jersey where a woman was hired at a drug treatment center as an observer for the men as they were urinating in the cup for their drug testing. They have somebody go into the restroom with them to watch them urinate to ensure that they are not bringing in somebody else's urine that is clean of any evidence of drugs and so forth. So this is what she was hired to do. Again, she's presenting herself as a male. It took a day for this clinic to figure out that she was really female. And understandably, they said, listen, I'm sorry, first of all, you lied. And secondly, this is inappropriate and for you to be, and this is a violation of the rights of these men to have some woman essentially ogling them as they're, doing something that should be very private.
Matt, this is something that it's a surprise all the way around. It was a surprise for the poor people standing in the restroom. It was a surprise for the employers, and it goes straight to the core of man's war with God right now. You see, only the creator of a thing can actually define it. Everybody else can only describe it. We come on things after the fact and we give them names, but you're not actually saying what they are. You're just saying what they're called. Biblically, that's what happened. God created the animals. He brought them to Adam. He says, what do you want to call them? He didn't say, make the animals, Adam. So, if you and I were to go out right now and we were to take a dog and we decided that just as an experiment, we would change its name to cat, and if we convince enough people to call it a cat, you could. If you take it through certain cosmetic procedures, you could even make it look like a cat. You have not changed the substance, the essence of the thing. And what it comes down to, Matt, quite frankly, we've talked about this before, is that not too long ago, only a century and a half ago or so, we had the rise of a secular humanism which has fought a war with God since it arrived on the scene to displace the deity of the universe with the deity of man, so that man gets to say what is and what isn't. And we see it in a couple of areas very, very acutely. One that you and I have talked about a lot is that of the treatment of the unborn, where if a mother wants a baby in some states and they are the victim of a crime, and the baby is lost, then it's a baby. But if the same mother were to go to an abortion clinic and abort the baby, then it's an embryo. So it's man saying what is and what isn't life. This is just another example of that, where man is saying what is a male and what is a female. And what you see, Matt, is nobody's talking about the rights, the very reasonable rights of those people having to undergo the drug test in these things. So it's
the
not
right to privacy, and
that's right.
And that's something we see with this is they insist, for instance, that a man who presents as a woman be allowed to go in and actually shower with my wife, with my daughter, in a locker room situation, for instance, even though they are fully biologically male, but because they're subjectively in their mind confused and think, maybe legitimately so, really believe that they're female, that somehow their rights of the minority here, this small confused minority, should supersede the rights of the majority. That's called tyranny of the minority. Now, we need to be very clear. We need to have compassion for these people who are confused, they're lost, they need prayer, they need psychiatric help. They don't need to have their bodies mutilated. And I often call this, Shawn, this is the Emperor Has No Clothes meets George Orwell. Of course, everyone is forced to join in on this delusion that a man can become a woman or a woman can become a man. Under penalty of law, oftentimes, is the goal of the LGBT lobby. So it's the Emperor Wears No Clothes. It's a delusion, clearly. Meets George Orwell under penalty of law. And Shawn, it's really a sad situation. Well, Christ had a little something to say on this. In Matthew 19:4, he said, "Haven't you read," he replied, "that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female? There's no transgender associated in there. There's no transsexual associated in there. As you point out, that is man's rebellion, Shawn, against God. It is so inane. I always say, why stop at gender identity? Why don't we just move on to species identity? If somebody wants to get in touch with their inner horse and run in the Kentucky Derby, who are we to say that they can't do it? I mean, it's just that ridiculous, to make that same kind of comparison if you take it to the next level. So this, I know, has upset a lot of people in the homosexual activist community, this story of this oppression of this woman presenting as a man. Even the AP, the Associated Press, the media, they join in on this delusion. I mean, they actually, in the article, call her a man and talk about him and use the male pronouns attached to this female. Have we lost our collective minds here in the United States of America?
Well, Matt, the driving force, the gas in this engine is political correctness. It has to be that way to push these kind of illogical changes. Again, what we're talking about is not changing what a person is, but changing what we say a person is, changing who's in control of that. And it's backed up by not just activists, but lawyers and law thinkers and those that would give credence to this. Julian Todd Weiss, a professor of law and society at New Jersey's Ramapo College, said this when they asked how she would have advised. She said, and I quote, "I would absolutely have told them, the employer, to retain the employee and to think about how to address transphobia and heterosexism in their environment."
Yeah.
This is the response of a law professor.
Yeah, these are these made-up words, these politically correct words.
Transphobia and heterosexism.
That the left uses to attach to people who are living in reality, who may adopt and may hold a biblical view, a traditional values view of sex and sexuality. We're heterosexist. We're transphobes.
That's exactly the point you're making. Is exactly right, Matt. This goes to Saul Alinsky's fifth rule.
Absolutely.
What they've done here is used large words to make it sound like she said something intelligent, but what she did was just launched an ad hominem argument against anybody who would have a moral problem with the transgender movement. If you are, then you're transphobic and you're a heterosexist, which means that you're a sexist only for heterosexuals.
Yeah, well, this is what we see, Shawn. This is the MO of the left, as we've seen it with, for instance, with the Tea Party movement. We've seen it with the Southern Poverty Law Center, labeling Christian groups who hold traditional values relative to sexual morality and sexual behavior, labeling them hate groups. It's really been ramped up lately, and I think they're finding that it's falling on deaf ears. You know, you can only cry wolf so many times before people start to sit up and take notice and discount what you have to say. So the more they scream and call us homophobes and bigots and transphobes, the less effect that it has in marginalizing those with traditional values, which is ultimately the end game and the goal. Well, folks, at Liberty Counsel, we live in reality, and we're going to continue to live in reality. We will pray for those who suffer from gender identity disorder. Ask you to join us in praying for this young woman who's been fired from her job and everyone who suffers from this disorder. Go to lc.org to learn more about Liberty Counsel and our ministry, or give us a call at 1-800-671-1776.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.